is Christine from Christine Peace, and I'm going to talk about the riots. Hopefully you'll find it interesting, because I know this topic's been done quite a bit so far, but I still feel that I have something to put out there on this subject.
Good.
First off, I would like to get this out of the way by saying I call bullshit. I call bullshit on this whole idea of the poor, dejected, black youth, all right?
Well, you can kind of call it bullshit, but it's not really that much bullshit. I mean, there's disaffected youth there, like there is here. But, we're looking at poor economic conditions. If we're just talking about teenagers who are just being angsty, then sure, I see your point.
People, and I use that term people loosely, the rats that are out there now are out there for themselves. A good example, I'm sure you've all seen the video by now of a young man who has had a facial injury and he's bleeding quite heavily. And a group of youth go to, under the guise of helping him, but in actual reality are sort of distracting him, while another guy goes through his backpack and steals from it. So it's like, as far as I know, this guy's also, or at least he's up to no good and shouldn't be out there, and he knows it's probably not a good idea. And he gets robbed.
Okay, so, you said rats. That's debatable. I mean, you're really kind of demonizing everyone that's out there when everyone who's out in those hoodies and everything might not be throwing a brick. I mean, yeah, you're out in there, and if you, some people might be caught up in the glamour of it all, because they're, there's this adrenaline rush, like, oh, somehow they've got this false sense of power. I understand that, but, you're kind of demonizing everybody by calling them rats. And this kid who happened to be out there, who happened to be bleeding from the mouth, I don't know that he was necessarily. He didn't have a scarf on his face. He didn't have a hood over his head. He had a hoodie on and a backpack, but he looked like just a student to me. So I don't necessarily know that he was a degenerate that shouldn't have been out there. He happened to get already beat up or something and then got robbed. It's not necessarily his fault.
By the robbers, and I think that's kind of whether he's involved in the riots or not. They don't care. It's obvious that it's every rat for himself or herself. They're just out there to take.
They're all rat. Quite a bit of generalization, a little bit of demonization.
And they disgust me. I've written down a few things.
And I must say, I'm disgusted by the behavior of many of the people that are in these situations, that are looting and rioting, beating people up, burning down their houses in their own communities. Obviously, it's disgusting behavior. It's detrimental, and I feel part of this, but we need to be careful how we paint everyone with the same broad stroke brush, which I think you make a point about later. But
okay, yeah, and then there's another video that I'm sure you've all seen now. It has two girls. You don't see them and you don't hear their names. We'll call them Teenage Mom number 1 and Teenage Mom number 2.
Wow, Teenage Mom number 1 and Teenage Mom number 2. Were they holding babies? Did they identify themselves as teenage moms? Did they have t-shirts called Teenage Mom and Teenage Mom 2 on their bodies? No, they didn't.
And they're intoxicated on stolen booze. And the interviewer asks why you're out here rioting. And the response was that the cops didn't respect them and that they were rude. Well, I have news
And the cops probably don't respect them.
for you, Teen Mom 1 and Teen Mom 2.
There we are again, generalizing.
You might gain a little respect if you shut your mouth. And definitely if you shut your fucking legs.
Woo! Now, that's the kicker. Shut your mouth and shut your legs. Hey, look, I'm really reaching a point where I'm having a hard time even lending any credence to what you're saying. I mean, I can agree with you to some degree on you know, the the feelings you have about how you were disgusted with the entire situation and the entire riots. But I mean, you're really going out there and making speculative, baseless assumptions um, eh, about with very little to no information based on a couple of images and one interview and a couple of people that said a couple of words, a couple of teenagers.
Anyway, also, I've got
Anyway,
you are the troublemaker. You're the degenerate. All right? And you don't get respect just by breathing. You earn it. And it's obvious from your behavior in this video that you have not, in the past, earned respect because you're that type of person that is just a little shit disturber.
that type of person that's a little shit disturber. You know, again, you know, where you're using you're using certain language to really paint a picture. I mean, yeah, these kids, you know, the cops aren't rude if they are arresting them for underage drinking. They are doing their job. So I will agree with you on that. And, you know, if they're breaking the law, they need to be punished within the constraints of the law. Sure. Okay.
Um, Also, it's not rude for the police to come to your house with a social worker so that they can take your children into custody for like a second or third time in the last 6 months. I'm sure that's what's going on in your lives.
Wow. So just by one interview where the girls said the cops were disrespecting them and rude, they are teenage moms who said the social worker come to their house, take away their babies because they're that type of people. What the fuck are you talking about? I mean no disrespect, but I gotta say that's the biggest. You want to call? I call bullshit on your calling bullshit. I call bullshit on that. I mean that's total bullshit. Again, pure speculation. Uh, where's it coming from? What evidence do you have?
Then there's a young woman that's being interviewed in a different city, and on the cameras she jokingly says, "I'm taking back my taxes." This is bullshit. I call bullshit again. You don't pay taxes when you're on the dole. You certainly don't pay taxes when you steal. All right?
Okay, you don't pay
When you
taxes when you
shoplift,
steal.
which is I'm sure how you get most of your goods.
Wow. When you shoplift, which is I'm sure how you get most of your goods. So again, because someone made a terrible error in judgment, um, which is not, which we're only guessing, which we can only speculate that this is her first or maybe her fifth time. Who knows? Because again, we have no information to go by. But again, that's probably how she gets most of her goods. She did it once. She probably does it all the time. Again, where's this shit coming from?
Um, One brilliant, and I use that term so loosely, teenager said with his hoodie pulled tight over his face, "Cops has too much power and they use it. They using it."
I don't know what you're giggling about, but that, you know, they're using it. That's a, you know, I think maybe you're laughing because you think he's ignorant, but he's actually just kind of using a slang. You know, it's we all have different slangs in different cultures, different language, different nationalities, and you know we have all kinds of slangs in this country. We shorten our words. We've probably got more words for one. You know, we've got more meanings for one particular word than any other country in the world. So if you want to talk about confusing language, you can start with us. So I think he was just kind of using a slang that is pretty common. But
Too much power. Just like the cops in Korea and Japan, right? Oh, it's such a shame. It's so
what?
disgusting. All those rights and freedoms. I mean, the bad cops. Anyhow, I think people should stop blaming the government. Yes, the government in the UK is not perfect, and they've certainly given the shitty end of a stick to the people in these neighborhoods that are having the riots right now.
Okay.
I'm not going to deny that.
You're not going to deny it, but you're going to call everybody rats. They're all rats for being pissed off about it. And yes, looting and burning and beating and destruction is not the answer. Doesn't necessarily mean they've all done it, but they're all rats. And you understand why they feel that way. You're just condemning them now because they're expressing themselves. Not necessarily with the looting and rioting. Again, we're talking about interviews on TV, right?
But it's not the government. The victims of the tax cuts are not the ones burning shit down. Start blaming the thugs and
Maybe.
punks, all right? One 15-year-old said, "I'm out here for the money." Well, at least he's honest.
So they should all come forward and be honest? Is that what you're trying to say? Is that what you're insinuating? Okay, wait. At least he's honest.
The same teen says to a reporter that the police are like, you don't know what they're like, man. When he was asked to expand on this statement, he said he couldn't find the words. I guess not. When you drop out of school or can't read, you can't find the words to describe how the police are when they pull you over for the umpteenth time for possession of drugs or suspicion of possession of marijuana. Even though I think it should be legal, you're definitely a punk, and you're most likely a small-time drug dealer.
Wow. I gotta say, that is probably one of the biggest and most ridiculous fucking character assassinations I have ever heard based on nothing. Based on no information, no evidence. This kid who couldn't express himself. When you're in a situation, whether it's you could be in a protest situation. I mean, look at Denver. Look at the G20s. You could be in a situation where the cops are hyped up, you're hyped up, and some of these cops don't always act accordingly. Sometimes they're not always the nicest people. Sometimes they don't act within the constraints of their own rules and regulations, and they go outside the law, and they beat the shit out of people, and they do inappropriate things. So when someone says, "You don't know what they're like, man," or something along those lines, maybe that reporter doesn't. And maybe the people watching on the telly don't know what they're like. Maybe he's expressing himself that way. Maybe he's not as eloquent as other people where he can necessarily articulately express how he feels and what he really wants to say about the cops when put on the spot. Instead, he's a school dropout who can't read and sells drugs and gets pulled over by the cops. Are you fucking kidding me? I mean, really? Is this the kind of shit you put out on a regular basis? I mean, I really don't know you, Christine, and I've got no, personal problem with you. This video is just, it's terrible. I mean, really, honestly, if I were you, I'd take this video down. I'd delete it from my library. If it were me, I would delete this video from my library. It really is just full of character assassination. And I see in the comment section that you've got people that are seem to be coming to your defense for people that are challenging you in this video. And your responses are, well, I'm not a racist, I'm not a sexist. Well, I'm not making that argument. I'm not saying you are a racist. I'm not saying you are a sexist. I'm saying that you've just created a video full of speculative, baseless character assassination with no information and evidence to the contrary. How can you not see that, and how can no one else see that? That is what some of these individuals that are commenting in your comment section are trying to say. That you're speculating all this bullshit. You called bullshit in the beginning of the video. I think this video is full of bullshit.